everyone and welcome. My name is Desiree and we are here with our second video in our 5th series. So that means after this one we have 3 more left and then we have completed our 2023 Christmas series. So for this one we're going to do some die cutting and we're not going to have it look as vintage as what we had before. We're going to use some of our dies and we might use vintage photo just a little bit, just around the edge. But mainly it's just cardstock and using our foliage dies. So here I'm going to use this sleigh and we're going to pop some greenery into it and we will add a sentiment. The foliage I'm using is by Birch Press and I'm going to use the bramble contour layers and also the forest leaf and berries for that centerpiece. All right, so not so as the collaging vintage as before. So this might be more so up your speed. Maybe you don't have a sleigh. Maybe you have something else like a stocking or a Christmas tree where you can put the foliage coming out of it. So again, dig into your stash to create this look and just have some fun with it. Again, I'm going to switch over to voiceover and then I'll come back at the end. We'll talk about the project, things that we can change, any challenges that I will more than likely have. And then we will gab right on through this. So grab your supplies and let's get started. We're going to start out by creating our background. Now you can do this with any background stamp and I'm using a piece of regular cardstock, 100 or the Recollections 110 pound, and I'm going around it with vintage photo. Now when I say you can use any background, you can. It doesn't have to be a music background. It could have any type of texture. You can put that to the background. So again, use what you have. Now I've mounted this onto a piece of Nina Desert Storm cardstock just for a little bit more brown. And now I'm just looking at placement of sentiment because that's the sentiment that I'm going to be using, Joyful Christmas. And I've already taken care of all of my die cutting. So I've die cut the red part of the sleigh twice. And then I have the gold bottom sleigh part and then the top part. I only die cut that once from gold mirror cardstock. And then just getting that lined up and then going to add the top gold part as well. Now, if you don't have mirror cardstock, you can also use another color cardstock, whether that's like a brown or a black, and it would look just fine. So I have all of my die cut pieces, and so that you can see some of them, I'll just put a piece of paper down. Now, when it comes to sometimes with dies, they have all the pieces on one die. So instead of letting those go to waste, I'm actually going to use those to layer. And the first color that I wanted, I will just place on top. You won't see those other layers, and they're just fine. And it plus makes that branch a little more sturdy. We have these beautiful leaves, and I'm just arranging my pieces so I can see what I have. And again, I die cut more than what I need. I never know, especially when it comes to an arrangement, a floral arrangement, a greenery arrangement. I will always die cut more because I never know how full I want it to look, if I want to tuck another piece in here because I have an open space, or if I have a spot that just looks like it needs more color, I'll be able to just tuck that leaf in there. So that's why I always die cut more. Now, any leaves or flowers that are left over, they always go into my pot that I have of all kinds of die cuts. And there's times where if I have no idea what I'm going to make or anything, I will pull that out and just create cards. Just pull different elements from that to create cards. And they come out awesome. It's, you know, you got all these mix match pieces, and it's like a puzzle. It's like a big puzzle to put together. So now we have the leaves together, and now we're going to put the berries together. So in this die, the shadow is the separate die that just goes along the bottom, and that creates the 3D effect in the berries. I mean, to me, that's genius. Absolutely genius. And creative. Hello. Extremely creative. So we're just going to layer all of these up. This one here has 2 separate parts. And now we'll just put that final part in there. These dies are great. I love these types of dies because they're great for your scraps. We always keep those scraps. Now this is just going to go along the top. And then the next piece is going to come underneath. So we have this layered effect. And I always just get creative with, you know, putting the berries together. So even if it's not perfect, no one will ever know. So now we have, excuse me, now we have our main pieces together. So I'm going to add the brown to the top because those are the branches so that the green leaves can come out. And then we will add the berries on the end of each of these twigs as well. The green holds that also. And just choosing different shades of red, you know, a very deep red, a bright red, almost like a coral, and just adding those. And you don't have to limit yourself to just where they say, okay, this is where the berries go. You can add berries wherever you want. So I'm just adding a few more to add more color to this arrangement that's going to come out of the sleigh. So now I'm just going to start adding our pieces. We're going to trim it down. We're going to snip a few things just so that it will fit inside. I always like to play around with the placement. It's never the final piece, just getting an idea of how this is going to fill itself out. And there's definitely, you know, a lot of green going on. And again, just trimming these branches down, knowing that they're really, really long. All right, the sleigh is going to be propped up using some double-sided foam squares. So I'm going to get those set into place, and I'm actually going to use those as a holder for all of the greenery. I say this later, me and Press and Seal, we do not work well together. And it's me. It's not the product. It is me. So I'll always, you know, by placing these pieces here, they're sticking onto the double-sided foam squares. So that works for me. And I'm just pushing these onto those to hold them in place, and then I'll turn it upside down and add glue and just get this settled down right onto my card panel before anything else shifts anymore. So So here's where I'm going to add the glue to those pieces laying down. And then just get that set. So now I know the spot at which I have for my sentiment. And I really like that green coming off the back end. So we're going to make that happen. And I just want to add a few more pops of color onto the front part and the main part of the sled, and I'm going to glue down that front piece. I don't want that to get caught on anything. And to balance out the arrangement, I'm going to add one more branch towards the front. I think that just balanced that whole arrangement. So all the extras will go into my container. And now we're going to get this onto our standard A2 size card base. So you saw the only place where I added vintage photo was around the edge, and I used a brown to stamp on the back. So we have this glow look coming from behind the sled. Now I'm going to trim down a piece, and I'll be able to make that just a little bit smaller, which I was glad, because I didn't want it that big. I really want it to sit up underneath or just below the sled. Now again, remember what I said in the first one. You know, things make something look vintage or have a vintage vibe to it. And one of those things that I said was metal. Metal chains, metal brads, eyelets, charms, all of those things help to pull in that vintage vibe. And along with, you know, gold embossing. Gold is just part, for me, of the vintage look as well. I was going to grab some brads for this, but again, didn't want to go too far. Because what we do have are gold gems, possibly, and those can be used as well. Now, I went around that sentiment just to frame it with the vintage photo, and then I skimmed along the edge with the black soot. It's just a very small frame, and that'll help this to kind of stand out on its own. I'm going to double layer the double-sided foam squares. These are the low profile double-sided foam squares. So I want to double them because I want it to not be, I don't want to push that rail of the sleigh down. I want that to just sit naturally. And you can see this fits perfectly right there. And I'm just going to add a couple gems to each side of the sentiment. That will draw the recipient's eye right down to it. And then we're going to add just a few to the sleigh. We're going to go right into the scrolls, and then we're just going to add one in the upper corner of the sleigh and like a cluster down in the bottom corner, just to give it some accent. I have to admit, I had to control myself on this. I was going to add all kinds of blips and bloops and everything else. And what I mean by the blips and bloops, the other thing that I love to add when it comes to vintage is hardware, like metal hardware. So instead of using the gems, I was going to use brads to have that look. But if you have gems, you can get that same look. You know, adding more gems into the sleigh. And again, if you have those stickles or Nouveau drops, use those as well. You know, I was going to add some sparkle to the ends of these berries here to make them stand out. You can have and add all of those embellishments and just keep going and going and going. when it comes to this. But again, piece of cardstock, used a background stamp. So maybe you don't have a music background stamp. Maybe it's a bunch of wavy lines, or maybe it's a bunch of circles. That is just fine as well. You don't have to have music. Maybe you have music pattern paper. Could use that in the background. You don't have to ink around the edges. I just like to do that. I ink around my edges here to make that sentiment just stand out just a little bit more. So those are the things that I'm thinking of as I'm putting the card together. I had one layer of double-sided foam back here, which helped me place all of these pieces. Me and press and seal do not get along. It just tears my cardstock. I don't know what I do wrong. It's me. I know it's an awesome product. It's just me. So by having those double-sided foam squares back there, I was able to stick the pieces to it and then get it laid down and then tuck the final pieces in. Now, I usually, when it comes to vintage, I like deep dark colors. When it comes to that, you could use brighter colors, use different color leaves, different color woods and berries and so forth. So, you know, don't limit yourselves. Again, look at what I was doing, not necessarily what I used. Adapt it to your stash, if that makes sense, because that's what this is all about. And there's the card. And again, these are cards also that, you know, may add more to your postage. My cards usually do. I love dimension. I love that looseness when it comes to this. But if you want it more flat, just make sure that you don't use the double-sided tapes. I doubled it here because I wasn't quite sure if it was going to come over these sleigh, the base of the sleigh. So that's why I doubled it. Okay. So again, that's video number 2. We have 3 days left. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. So tomorrow's, I believe, is going to be something similar. When it comes to vintage, I love foliage. I love greenery. I think that just adds so much to it, to the texture and the dimension of it. But we're going to keep on going. Make sure, though, if you have any questions, make sure you leave those questions down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. And by all means, hit that bell so that you know when the next video is ready for you to watch. And remember, I know 25 days, and almost 25 days in a row, you're hearing me say this. But you know what? You're going to hear me say it again in 2024. Enjoy the process. Have fun creating your art. Make it your own. Look at the techniques that are being used in all of our creators' videos and apply it to what you have in your stash to not only stretch it, but to give it new life. We don't have to use those products the way that we were inspired to buy them, but we can find many different ways to use them. So just have fun with it and enjoy. No stress, no frustration. The holidays are doing that enough for us. Oh yes, we are getting closer, and oy vey. I'm just saying, wow, it's rolling. But I love my family and I love my friends, and I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you here crafting with me on my channel. Remember what's most important, though. Always be creative in each and everything that you do every day. Till video number 3, I'll be talking to you. Take care.